third and last part of Project 3. We're going to draw some elevation drawings. So what we're going to do, elevations, first of all, are looking at a building or piece of architecture from the side. So looking at the facade, in this case, we're going to look at the front view and the right view. So we'll do a front or south elevation and then a right or east elevation, right? So we'd be on the east side looking at the building or the south side looking at the building. And so we're going to do two elevation drawings, front and right viewports. And so the workflow is going to be fairly similar to what you're used to. We're going to square everything up in our viewports, do a make 2D, do a rendering for each of these, and then we'll export everything out. We'll bring it into Illustrator in the next video. Okay. All right. So first of all, we're going to do front. I'm going to go ahead and blow up front view and try to make this as large as I can to fill the screen without accidentally making anything run off the edge here. Okay, just bump that up. All right, now my whole folly or architecture, building, whatever you want to call it, is within the window, but it's pretty much fills the window. So again, I'm just gonna go to render settings and double check a few things. I'll do the rendering first, maybe. Okay. Sorry, sometimes when I first open up Windows in the morning, it runs system updates, and for some reason things go slower, but here we go. Rhino render, the viewport, perfect. I have this set to good quality, but I'm leaving it at 72 dpi. Transparent backgrounds checked, sun is off and skylight is on. Okay, so I'm ready to render. I'll go ahead and hit the render button. Again, after I do the rendering of this front elevation, I'm going to do the make 2D before I have a chance to accidentally mess up and change the view. And that way, the rendering will line up with the viewport rectangle later on in Illustrator. So just being careful about that, learning from practice, and, I'm sure a few of you have learned the hard way that it's really worth your time to be very careful when you're going through this process to make sure that everything still aligns at the end. So you don't have to resize things on the fly. Okay, that didn't take too long. Let me just save that. I'm going to save this as a PNG. Really important because that transparent background, I don't want to see a black or white block. I want it to be transparent. So I turned on that transparent background. I want to preserve the alpha channel. So I'm just going to save this as a PNG file. I'm going to call this South Elevation 01. All right. And save. Close this very carefully. I'm just going to select everything, drag from right to left here, and I'm going to type in make 2D. And let's see, views, fine. Clipping plane intersections. I don't think we need a clipping plane for this. So I'm going to turn that off. Viewport rectangle, of course. Tangent edges, yes. Scene silhouette, I'm going to turn on, and I'm going to hit OK. Okay, so scene silhouette, tangent edges, viewport rectangle are on. I've turned clipping plane intersections off in this case. I'll just hit OK and let it draw that elevation for me. I toggle back to my 4 viewports so I can see the new drawing here in top view. It always draws this drawing in flat on the XY plane. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in here and there we go. Not sure why I have must have been where, oh, I see, it's where the ground was. Okay, so I'll just leave that in. That's the ground line. You know what I'm going to do? While I have this out, I'm just going to trim this. So I'm going to trim. I just use this viewport rectangle to trim anything that's outside of it here. Just get rid of that excess stuff. Okay, nothing too big. Just want to make sure that really I just want what's inside this viewport rectangle. Okay. All right, now we're ready to do the other elevation, the right elevation or east elevation. So I'm going to blow that one up. Again, I have this positioned so that it fills the screen, but I don't have anything running off the screen, right? So I want to make sure I have this fully contained within the viewport. So what I see is what I get. And I'll go ahead, shouldn't have any different render settings here, so I'm just going to hit render. All right, let's see. Wait for this to do its thing. There we are. It's not taking too long. Almost there. Just a second or so remaining. All right, and I'll just, again, make sure this is saved as a PNG, and I'll save this as east elevation. That way I keep these things straight in my head. East elevation. All right. Now that that's rendered, I'm going to carefully close that render window and go back to my model environments. I'm just going to carefully select everything without changing my view at all and type in make 2D. And just double check this again. We're doing the right view. Tangent edges are on, scene silhouettes on, viewport rectangles on, clipping plane intersections are off. I'm going to hit OK. And let's go to the top view and look at this elevation, pull it off a bit. There's Windows telling me that it's installing updates for some reason while I'm trying to work on it. Okay. And I'm just going to zoom in. Again, I'm going to just sort of trim the excess away here. There's more than one curve. There we go. All right, just trim, T-R-I-M. And I'll use the viewport rectangle as my cutting object, and I'm just going to click and click, select the parts that I just want to trim away. Have it disappear forever. These aren't exactly the same size, so we're going to have to fix that later in Illustrator. But we'll want everything to be the exact same size when we bring things in. And the other thing is when we bring these into Illustrator, we're going to line these up so that the plan projects down to the south elevation, and then and then from the south elevation we project over to the side to the east elevation. Okay, so we'll talk about that in the second video, which is just coming up. Okay, last but not least, I'm just going to export both of these together. Export selected. I'll export them as an Illustrator file, and I'll call these elevations. And just make sure you have it set to AI, and I'll hit save. Elevations already exist. Oh, I'll say elevations 267. I just don't want to overwrite anything that might be important from a different course or project. Elevations 267. There we go. All right. And I'll just use the defaults and hit OK. All right. Now we have an Illustrator file with both of our elevation drawings in it, as well as a rendering of each of those elevations. So in the next video coming up, we'll bring all that stuff into Illustrator and composite it all together.